The garden had been dying for 3.5 years. Alexander Morrison stood at the iron gates of his estate, his hands gripping the cold metal bars as autumn wind swept through the overgrown grounds. The hedges that his wife Catherine had once shaped with surgical precision now twisted wild and gnarled, their branches reaching across the stone pathways like arthritic fingers. The fountain at the center of the garden, once a symbol of elegance and careful cultivation, sat dry and cracked. Weeds pushed through the marble basin with relentless determination. He had not returned here since the funeral. The real estate agent would arrive in 40 minutes to assess the property value. Alex had finally made the decision to sell, not because he needed the money, God knows he had more than enough of that, but because this place, this monument to everything he had lost, had become unbearable in its silence. The Mercedes hummed softly behind him, engine still warm. He had driven here directly from the office, still wearing his charcoal suit and Italian leather shoes, as if the armor of success could protect him from the memories that lived in every corner of this estate. It could not. 3.5 years ago, Catherine had called him from this very driveway. "Come home early," she had said, her voice light with the kind of joy that used to fill their lives. "Lily made something special for you at school. She's so excited to show you." He had been in a board meeting, an important one, the kind that determined quarterly profits and shareholder confidence. "I can't," he had told her. "Tell Lily I'll see it tonight." But there was no tonight. Not for them. The drunk driver had run the red light at the intersection of Madison and Fifth. The impact killed Catherine instantly. Lily, 7 years old and still clutching her artwork in the back seat, had died in the ambulance before it reached the hospital. Alex closed his eyes against the memory, but it lived behind his eyelids now, permanent and unforgiving. When he opened them again, he saw something moving near the far edge of the garden. At first, he thought it might be an animal. A deer, perhaps, or a stray dog that had found its way through the gaps in the perimeter fence. But as his eyes adjusted to the fading October light, he realized the shape was too small, too deliberate in its movements. It was a child. She was crouched low near what had once been Catherine's rose garden, her small hands working at the earth with focused intensity. Alex's first instinct was anger. This was private property. The no trespassing signs were clear. But something in the way the child moved, something in the rigid set of her thin shoulders, made him hesitate. He stepped through the gates and walked across the gravel path. His footsteps were loud in the stillness. The child did not look up. As he got closer, details emerged with painful clarity. She could not have been more than 9 or 10 years old. Her clothes hung loose on her frame, a faded hoodie several sizes too large, and jeans that were rolled at the ankles. Her dark hair was pulled back in a ponytail, neat despite the dirt that smudged her face and arms. She was digging. Not aimlessly, not playing. She was using a small plastic garden trowel, the kind sold in dollar stores, to scoop soil into a canvas bag beside her. The bag was already half full. "What the hell are you doing?" The words came out harsher than Alex intended. The child froze. For a long moment, she remained perfectly still, hands buried in the earth. Then slowly she lifted her head. Her eyes were dark brown, almost black in the dimming light. They held a kind of ancient weariness that should never exist in a child's face. She looked at him without fear, without surprise, only with a calm acceptance that somehow made everything worse. "I'm taking soil," she said. Her voice was steady, matter of fact. "I can see that." Alex forced himself to speak more quietly. "Why?" The child wiped her dirty hands on her jeans, leaving dark streaks across the faded denim. She studied him for another moment, as if weighing whether he deserved an answer. "To bury my mother and baby brother." The words landed between them like stones dropping into still water. Alex felt something cold slide down his spine. He had misheard. He must have misheard. "Your mother and brother," he repeated slowly. "Are they?" "Not yet." The child's voice remained eerily calm. "But they will be soon, so I'm preparing." The rational part of Alex's mind screamed that this was insane, that this child was disturbed or confused or playing some kind of sick game. But the rational part of his mind had stopped being reliable 3.5 years ago, when a phone call had shattered his entire world in the space of a single sentence. He moved closer, his expensive shoes sinking slightly into the soft earth. The child watched him approach, but did not move away. "What's your name?" he asked. "Emma." "Emma, I'm Alex." He crouched down, bringing himself to her eye level. "Emma, if your mother and brother are still alive, why are you preparing to bury them?" She tilted her head slightly as if the question itself was strange. "Because we don't have money for a real funeral. When they die, I'll need to do it myself. And this soil," she gestured at the earth around them. "I looked it up at the library. This type of soil is good for that." The clinical way she discussed it made Alex's chest tighten. This was a child who had spent time researching how to bury her family. A child who had accepted death as inevitable and was making practical preparations. "Where are they now?" he asked. "Your mother and brother?" Emma hesitated. In that hesitation, Alex saw the first crack in her careful composure. She was afraid, not of him, but of what his question represented. Of hope, perhaps, or of the judgment that adults so often carried. "The Riverside Tent Camp," she said finally, "about 2 miles south." Alex knew the place. Everyone in Seattle knew about Riverside. It was where the city's homeless population clustered along the banks of the Duwamish River, living in makeshift shelters of tarps and salvaged wood. The city council had been trying to clear it for years, but the people had nowhere else to go. "Your mother is sick?" he asked. Emma nodded. "She had my baby brother a few days ago. She got sick after. At first she was just tired. Then the fever came. Now she can't get up anymore." "And your brother?" "He's so small." Emma's voice wavered for the first time. "He doesn't cry much. I think that's bad. Babies are supposed to cry." Alex found himself reaching into his pocket for his phone. He did not stop to think about liability or involvement or any of the thousand logical reasons he should simply call social services and walk away. He only thought about Lily, about how small she had been, about how he had failed to be there when she needed him most. "Show me where they are," he said. Emma's eyes widened slightly. "You'll help?" "Show me." She stood up, brushing dirt from her knees. For the first time since he had found her, something like hope flickered across her face. It was quickly suppressed, pushed down beneath layers of learned skepticism, but he had seen it. Emma picked up her canvas bag, cradling it carefully against her chest. The soil inside shifted with a soft whisper. "It's not far," she said, "but we should hurry." They walked to his car together, an unlikely pair. The wealthy CEO in his $1,000 suit and the homeless child clutching a bag of dirt meant for graves. Alex opened the passenger door for her. Emma climbed in carefully, as if afraid she might break something. The leather seats were spotless. The car still had that new car smell, though Alex had owned it for 8 months. Emma sat very still, the bag of soil balanced on her thin knees. Alex started the engine and pulled out of the estate gates. In the rearview mirror, he watched the mansion recede, its windows dark and empty. He had come here to begin the process of letting go, of selling the past and moving forward. He had not expected to find a child preparing to bury her future. They drove in silence. Emma stared out the window, her reflection ghostly in the glass. The city rolled past them, transforming gradually from manicured neighborhoods to industrial zones, to the rough streets near the river. "What's your name?" Emma asked suddenly. "Your full name, I mean." "Alexander Morrison. Most people call me Alex." "Alexander." She tested the name. "That's a strong name, like Alexander the Great." "I suppose so. Are you great?" There was no mockery in her voice, only genuine curiosity. Alex almost laughed, but it caught in his throat. "No, I'm just a man who wasn't there when it mattered most." Emma looked at him then, really looked at him with those two old eyes. "Did someone die?" He gripped the steering wheel tighter. "My wife and daughter. Car accident. 3.5 years ago." "I'm sorry." "So am I." They lapsed into silence again, but it felt different now, less hollow. There was an understanding in it, a recognition of shared grief even if the details differed. The riverside encampment emerged slowly from the industrial wasteland. First just a few scattered tents, then more, then dozens clustered along the riverbank like a displaced village. Tarps in blue and green and orange created a patchwork canopy. Smoke rose from small fires. The smell of unwashed bodies and human waste hung thick in the air. Alex had never been here. In all his years living in Seattle, managing properties worth hundreds of millions of dollars, He had never once come to see how the other half lived, how the other 1% lived, really, the truly forgotten. There, Emma pointed to a tent at the far edge of the encampment. It was smaller than most of the others, barely large enough for two people. The tarp was faded and patched with duct tape. Alex parked as close as he could and killed the engine. The encampment had gone quiet. Faces appeared at tent flaps, watching the Mercedes with suspicion and calculation. This car represented more money than most of these people would see in a year. "Stay close to me," Alex said. Emma nodded. She clutched her bag of soil tighter and climbed out of the car. They walked through the camp together. People stared but said nothing. A woman with matted hair and a sleeping bag wrapped around her shoulders watched them pass with hollow eyes. A man sorting through a shopping cart full of aluminum cans paused to track their movement. Emma led him to the small tent and stopped outside the entrance. Her hand trembled slightly as she reached for the tarp flap. "Mom," she called softly. "Mom, I brought someone. Someone who can help." There was no response. Emma pulled back the flap and they stepped inside. The smell hit Alex first. Sickness and sweat and something metallic that he recognized as blood. The interior of the tent was dim, lit only by the fading daylight filtering through the tarp. The ground was bare earth covered with a few old blankets. On those blankets lay a woman. She could not have been more than 30 years old, but suffering had aged her. Her dark hair was plastered to her forehead with sweat. Her skin had taken on a grayish pallor that spoke of serious infection. Her breathing was shallow and rapid. Beside her, wrapped in what looked like a torn t-shirt, was the baby. Alex had seen enough in his 46 years to know what death looked like when it was approaching. This woman was dying, and unless she got help soon, she would take her infant son with her. "Mom," Emma knelt beside her mother, touching her shoulder gently. "Mom, wake up, please." The woman's eyelids fluttered. It took visible effort for her to open them. When she did, her gaze was unfocused at first, wandering across the tent ceiling. Then she saw Alex. Terror flooded her face. She tried to sit up, failed, tried again. Her hands scrabbled for the baby, pulling him against her chest with desperate strength. "No." Her voice was barely a whisper, cracked and dry. "No, don't take them. Please don't take my children." "Mom, it's okay." Emma's voice cracked. "He's here to help." "No." The woman shook her head weakly. "They always say they'll help. Then they take you away. They say you're unfit. They take your babies." Alex crouched down slowly, keeping his movements calm and unthreatening. He had dealt with scared people before, investors on the verge of panic, employees facing layoffs. But this was different. This was a mother protecting her children with the last fragments of her strength. "My name is Alexander Morrison," he said quietly. "I'm not with social services. I'm not here to take your children. Your daughter was at my property, and she told me you needed help. That's all." The woman searched his face, looking for deception. Her breathing grew more labored with each second. "What, Mama," she managed. "Why would you help us? You don't know us." Alex felt something break inside his chest. The question was so simple, so devastating in its implication. This woman had learned that kindness always came with conditions, that help was never freely given. "Because," he said, and his voice was rough with an emotion he had not allowed himself to feel in years. 3.5 years ago, I lost my wife and daughter in a car accident. I couldn't save them. I wasn't there. But I'm here now, and maybe I can't fix what happened to me. But I can help you." The woman stared at him. Tears began to slide down her temples. "My name is Claire," she whispered. "Claire Carter. This is Emma and Noah." "Hello, Claire. I've already called for an ambulance. It should be here any minute." "No." Claire tried to shake her head again, but the movement was too much. "Can't afford. Hospital will call CPS. They'll take my babies because I'm homeless. Because I'm sick." "They won't take your children," Alex said with more certainty than he felt. "I'll make sure of it." "How? How can you promise that?" "Because I'm very good at getting what I want. And what I want right now is for you and your son to live." Outside, the sound of sirens began to wail in the distance, growing louder. Claire's eyes started to close. She fought it, forced them open again. "Emma," she whispered, "don't let them separate us. Promise me." "I promise, Mom." Emma's face was streaked with tears now, all her careful composure finally breaking. The sirens were close now, very close. Alex stood and stepped outside the tent. Two paramedics were already running toward them, carrying their equipment. Female, approximately 30 years old, Alex called out to them. Postpartum, approximately 1 week. High fever, altered mental status. Newborn male infant, approximately 1 week old as well. The paramedics barely glanced at him as they pushed past into the tent. Alex had learned long ago that confidence in the right vocabulary could open almost any door. He heard Claire cry out weakly as they began their assessment. Emma appeared in the tent opening, stepping back to give the professionals room to work. "Is she going to die?" Emma asked him. Alex looked down at her, 9 years old and asking the question with the calm of someone who had already prepared for the worst possible answer. "Not if I can help it," he said. One of the paramedics emerged, carrying the baby. The infant was frighteningly small, frighteningly still. His skin had a yellowish tint that spoke of jaundice and dehydration. "We need to transport both of them immediately," the paramedic said. "Are you family?" "Yes," Alex lied without hesitation. "I'm her husband." The paramedic nodded and handed him the baby. "Hold him. Keep him warm." Alex took the child with hands that suddenly felt too large and clumsy. The baby weighed almost nothing. He could feel the small rib cage through the thin wrapping, feel the too rapid heartbeat like a bird trapped in his palms. Noah's eyes opened. They were dark, unfocused, searching for something they could not quite find. The baby's tiny hand emerged from the wrapping and grasped Alex's finger with surprising strength. Something shifted inside Alex's chest. Some locked door that had been sealed for 3.5 years cracked open just slightly. He had held Lily like this once, had felt her small hand wrap around his finger with that same instinctive trust. The paramedics emerged with Claire on a stretcher. She was barely conscious, head lolling to the someone. They moved quickly, efficiently, loading her into the ambulance. "Emma, come on." Alex held out his free hand to the girl. She hesitated only a moment before taking it. Her hand was small and dirty and cold. They climbed into the ambulance together. Emma sat beside her mother's stretcher, gripping Claire's hand. Alex sat across from them, the baby still clutched against his chest. The doors slammed shut, the sirens wailed to life. The ambulance lurched into motion. Through it all, Emma never let go of her mother's hand, and Noah never let go of Alex's finger. Claire stopped breathing somewhere between the encampment and the hospital. The paramedics worked on her with calm urgency, pushing Emma gently but firmly aside. One of them began chest compressions. The other prepared the bag valve mask. "Mom!" Emma's scream was raw and terrible. "Mom!" Alex pulled her away from the stretcher, wrapping his free arm around her shoulders while still cradling Noah with the other. Emma fought him for a second, then collapsed against his side, her body racked with sobs. 30 compressions, one paramedic counted. "Breathe. Come on, Claire. Stay with us." The baby in Alex's arms began to whimper. The sound was weak and thready, barely audible over the sirens and the organized chaos of the resuscitation effort. "Got a pulse," the second paramedic announced. Emma's body went rigid with hope. "Pulse is weak but steady. Respiration's returning." Claire's chest began to rise and fall on its own again. The paramedics continued their work, starting an IV line, adjusting oxygen levels, speaking a medical shorthand that Alex half understood from years of reading hospital reports for liability cases. The ambulance screamed through red lights and traffic. Buildings blurred past the small windows. Seattle Medical Center emerged ahead, its emergency bay lit bright against the darkening sky. The doors flew open. Hospital staff swarmed the ambulance. Claire was pulled out on the stretcher, already surrounded by doctors and nurses. "Female 31 postpartum sepsis," the paramedic rattled off. "Coded en route, successful resuscitation. Vital stabilizing but critical." They wheeled her away at a run, pushing through the automatic doors into the harsh fluorescent light of the emergency department. Alex climbed down from the ambulance with Noah still in his arms. Emma followed, moving like someone in a nightmare. "Wait here," a nurse told them, gesturing to the waiting area. "Someone will update you as soon as we know more." The waiting room was a study in suffering, uncomfortable plastic chairs, outdated magazines, a television mounted high in the corner, playing news no one was watching. A handful of other people sat scattered throughout the space, each lost in their own private miseries. Alex found 2 seats in the corner. Emma sat down mechanically, staring at nothing. The baby whimpered again. Alex looked down at him, at the tiny face scrunched with discomfort and hunger. "He needs to eat," Emma said dully. "Mom was breastfeeding, but she hasn't been able to for 2 days. I tried giving him water, but he wouldn't take it." A nurse passed by. Alex caught her attention. "Excuse me, this infant needs formula. Can you help us?" The nurse's eyes softened when she saw Noah. "Of course, how old?" "About a week, maybe less." She disappeared and returned 5 minutes later with a bottle of prepared formula. "Do you need help feeding him?" It's been a while." The nurse showed him how to position the baby, how to tilt the bottle to avoid air bubbles. Noah latched onto the nipple with desperate hunger, sucking frantically. "Easy," the nurse murmured. "Slow down, little one. It's not going anywhere." She left them with several more bottles and a kind smile. Alex fed the baby slowly, carefully. Noah's eyes drifted closed as he ate, his small body finally beginning to relax. Beside him, Emma sat rigid and silent. Her dirty hands were folded in her lap. The canvas bag of soil rested at her feet. "Emma," Alex said quietly. She did not respond. "Emma, look at me." Slowly she turned her head. Her face was expressionless, shut down completely. "Your mother is going to survive," he said. "Do you understand me? She's going to survive." "You don't know that." "You're right, I don't know it for certain, but I believe it, and I need you to believe it too." Emma's face crumpled. "I was ready," she whispered. "I had the soil. I had a plan. I knew what to do when they died, but I don't know what to do if they live." Alex felt his throat tighten. "You keep living too. That's what you do." They sat in silence after that. Noah finished the bottle and fell asleep against Alex's chest. The baby's breathing evened out, growing deeper and more regular. An hour passed, then two. Emma fell asleep eventually, her head tilting onto Alex's shoulder. He did not move, afraid to wake her. She needed this rest. God knew when she had last slept safely. The baby was warm against his chest. The girl was heavy against his side. And for the first time since Catherine and Lily had died, Alex felt something other than emptiness. He felt needed. At 11:47 p.m., a doctor emerged from the emergency department. She was young, probably in her early 30s, with dark circles under her eyes that spoke of a long shift. "Family of Claire Carter?" Alex gently shifted Emma awake. She jerked upright, instantly alert. They stood together and approached the doctor. "I'm Dr. Sarah Martinez," she said. "Claire is stable." Emma made a sound somewhere between a sob and a gasp. "She has severe postpartum sepsis," Dr. Martinez continued. "The infection had spread to her bloodstream. Another 6 hours and we would have lost her. But we've started aggressive antibiotic treatment. She's responding well." "And the baby?" Alex asked, gesturing to Noah in his arms. "We'll need to admit him as well. Severe dehydration and malnutrition. But with proper care, he should recover fully." De Martinez smiled tiredly. "You got them here just in time." "Can we see her?" Emma asked. "She's sedated right now. We had to intubate her briefly, but she's breathing on her own again. She should wake up in the morning." De Martinez looked at Alex. "Are you the father?" Alex paused. What was he? A stranger? A bystander? "I'm family." "Well, family, your wife and son are going to need extensive follow-up care. The social worker will talk to you about resources tomorrow." Alex nodded. He did not correct her assumption. "Not yet." Dr. Martinez left them with instructions and room numbers. A nurse came to take Noah for admission. Emma watched her brother being carried away with visible anxiety. "He'll be fine," Alex assured her. "They'll take good care of him." "What about me?" Emma asked. "Where do I go?" The question hung in the air between them. She had no home to return to. The tent at Riverside was not an option. Shelters were often full and rarely safe for children alone. Alex made a decision. "You come with me," he said. "Tonight, you come home with me." Emma's eyes went wide. "Wipe over. Because I have more rooms than I know what to do with. Because your mother would want you safe. And because—" He trailed off, unsure how to finish. "Because you don't want to be alone either," Emma said quietly. Alex looked at her. This strange, wise, damaged child who saw too much and understood too well. Yes, he admitted. That too. They walked out of the hospital together as the city slept around them. Emma carried her bag of soil. Alex carried the weight of a decision he did not fully understand but could not bring himself to question. The Morrison estate was dark when they arrived. Alex had not been here in the daylight since Catherine died. Now he was returning after midnight with a homeless child. Life, he thought, had a cruel sense of irony. He led Emma inside. She stood in the marble foyer, looking small and out of place among the expensive furniture and crystal chandeliers. "Are you hungry?" he asked. She nodded. He made her a sandwich. She ate it at the kitchen island, sitting on a stool that was too tall for her feet dangling above the floor. "There's a guest room upstairs," he said. "It has its own bathroom. You can shower if you want. I'll find you some clean clothes." Emma looked down at herself, at the dirt ground into her jeans, at her fingernails rimmed with soil from the garden. "Can I keep the dirt?" she asked. "From the bag?" "Yes, but Emma, you won't need it. Not for burying anyone. Do you understand?" She nodded slowly, but she still carried the bag upstairs with her. Alex showed her to the guest room. It was decorated in soft blues and grays, untouched since the interior designer had finished it 5 years ago. Emma stood in the doorway as if afraid to enter. "It's okay," he said. "It's yours, at least for tonight." She stepped inside carefully. Alex found a t-shirt for her to sleep in. It would be enormous on her, but it was clean. "Thank you," she said quietly. "You're welcome." He was almost out the door when she spoke again. "Mr. Morrison?" He turned back. "Have you ever lost someone?" The question hit him like a physical blow. He thought about lying, about deflecting. But this child had been honest with him about everything, even the darkest parts. "Yes," he said. "I lost my wife and daughter 3.5 years ago." Emma nodded slowly, as if this confirmed something she had already suspected. "Does it ever stop hurting?" she asked. Alex leaned against the doorframe. "I don't know. I'll tell you when I find out." "At least you got to love them," Emma said, before they left. "Some people never get that." The wisdom in those words, coming from a 9-year-old, nearly broke him. "Go to sleep, Emma. We'll figure out tomorrow when it comes." He closed the door softly and stood in the hallway for a long moment. Somewhere in this house was the locked room where Lily's things still waited untouched. Somewhere in this house was the bedroom he had not slept in since Catherine died. He walked to his study instead and poured himself a scotch. He did not drink it. He just sat in the leather chair and stared at nothing as the hours crept toward dawn. When the first light broke over Seattle, Alex stood and walked to the window. The garden was visible from here, walled and overgrown. In the far corner, he could just make out the spot where he had found Emma digging, preparing to bury her family. But instead, perhaps, they had found a way to keep living. Alex did not believe in fate or divine intervention, but he believed in choices. And somewhere in the last 12 hours, he had made one. He was not sure yet what it meant, but he knew with absolute certainty that his life had changed. The soil meant for graves would have to serve a different purpose now. It would have to help something grow. Morning came to the Morrison estate with a quality of light that Alex had forgotten existed. He found Emma in the kitchen at 6:30, already awake and dressed in her clothes from yesterday. She had washed them somehow, probably in the bathroom sink. They were still damp, clinging to her thin frame. She sat at the kitchen island with her canvas bag of soil placed carefully beside her on the marble countertop. "You're up early," Alex said. "I always wake up early. At the camp, if you sleep too late, people take your things." The casual way she said it made something twist in his chest. He moved to the coffee maker, a sleek Italian machine that had cost more than most people spent on rent. "Are you hungry?" Emma nodded. He opened the refrigerator, stared at its contents with the helplessness of a man who had not cooked a real meal in years. There were takeout containers, a few bottles of expensive wine, some wilted vegetables he could not remember buying. "Eggs?" he offered. "Okay." He managed scrambled eggs and toast. They were passable. Emma ate with the focused intensity of someone who had known real hunger. She did not speak until her plate was clean. "When can we see Mom?" "Visiting hours start at 9. We'll go then." She nodded and carried her plate to the sink. Alex watched as she washed it carefully, dried it, put it away. 9 years old and already trained to leave no trace, to take up as little space as possible. Emma, you don't have to do that here. I don't mind. I know, but for now, this is your home too. You can leave dishes in the sink if you want. She looked at him with those two old eyes. For now means it's not forever. I meant, Alex stopped. What had he meant? Let's just take it one day at a time. They drove to the hospital in silence. The morning traffic was thick, commuters heading to places they probably hated. Alex had been one of them once before he built his own company. Now he could work when he wanted, or not work at all. The realization hit him suddenly. He had not thought about work since yesterday afternoon, had not checked his phone, had not answered emails. For a man whose entire identity had been wrapped up in Morrison Properties for the past 3.5 years, this was remarkable. Graham would be furious. The thought brought a grim smile to his face. Seattle Medical Center was quieter in the morning. They found Claire's room on the 4th floor. She was awake, sitting up slightly in bed. The color had returned to her face, though she still looked weak and fragile. Emma? Claire's voice broke on her daughter's name. Emma ran to the bed and Claire wrapped her arms around her, both of them crying silently. Alex stood in the doorway, suddenly feeling like an intruder on this private moment. But Claire looked up and caught his eye over Emma's head. Thank you, she mouthed. He nodded and stepped out into the hall to give them privacy. 20 minutes later, a doctor arrived to check on Claire. Alex used the time to find Noah in the pediatric unit. The baby was in a small plastic bassinet hooked up to an IV and monitor. But his color was better, his breathing steady. A nurse was changing his diaper. You can hold him if you want, she said, noticing Alex in the doorway. He's doing much better. Alex approached slowly. The nurse finished and lifted Noah, placing him in Alex's arms with the practiced efficiency of someone who did this 100 times a day. The baby was warm and solid. His eyes opened, unfocused but aware. Hello, Noah, Alex said quietly. The baby made a small sound. His tiny hand found Alex's finger again, gripping with that instinctive strength. Something Dr. Martinez had said last night echoed in his mind. Your wife and son. He had not corrected her. And standing here now, with this child in his arms, he found he still did not want to. The next week passed in a strange blur of hospital visits and quiet domesticity. Claire remained hospitalized. The infection had done serious damage. She would need at least another week of IV antibiotics, possibly 2. Noah stayed as well, gaining weight slowly but steadily. Emma stayed with Alex. It should have been awkward. A 46-year-old man and a 9-year-old girl, strangers a week ago, now sharing a house. But somehow it was not. Emma moved through the estate like a small ghost, quiet and self-sufficient. She read books from the library. She taught herself to play simple songs on the piano in the music room. She never left her bag of soil unattended for long. On the 3rd day, Alex hired a housekeeper service to deep clean the house. It had been neglected for too long. The service sent a team of 4 who worked for 8 hours straight. Emma watched them with fascination. Why don't you just do it yourself, she asked Alex. Because I'm not very good at it, and because I can afford to pay people who are. Must be nice. It is, but it doesn't make you happy. Emma considered this. What does make you happy? Alex realized he did not have an answer. I don't know anymore. On the 5th day, Claire was well enough for a real conversation. Alex came to visit alone, leaving Emma with Noah in the pediatric unit. Claire sat up in bed, looking stronger but still fragile. We need to talk, she said. All right. When I'm discharged, Emma and I will need to find somewhere to go. There are shelters. I've been researching options. You could stay at my house. Claire shook her head. Mr. Morrison, I appreciate everything you've done. You saved our lives, but I can't accept more charity. It's not charity. I need a housekeeper. The place is too big for me to manage alone. I'll pay you standard wages, room and board included. I'm not going to be your housekeeper out of pity. Good, because I'm not offering out of pity. I'm offering because I'm selfish. Alex leaned forward, elbows on his knees. That house has been dead for 3 years. Empty. Now Emma's there, and it doesn't feel dead anymore. I don't want to go back to the silence. Claire studied him with sharp intelligence. You lost someone. My wife and daughter. Car accident. I'm sorry. So am I, but Claire, I'm not trying to replace them. I'm just trying to keep living. And having you and your children there helps me do that. So yes, it's selfish, but it's also practical. You need work and housing. I need help. It's business. Business, Claire repeated skeptically. Business. She was quiet for a long moment. Standard wages? Standard wages. And if I want to leave, I can leave whenever you want. Another silence. Then finally she nodded. Okay, but this is temporary, just until I get back on my feet financially. Of course, Alex agreed, knowing even as he said it that temporary had a way of becoming permanent. On the seventh day, Graham Westfield came to the estate. Alex was in his study, reviewing reports he should have looked at a week ago when he heard the doorbell. Emma was in the library, curled up in an oversized chair with a book about marine biology. He opened the door to find Graham standing there in his perfectly tailored suit, his expression severe. We need to talk, Graham said without preamble. Come in. Graham followed him to the study and closed the door. Alex, what the hell is going on? You've been unreachable for a week. You missed the board meeting. Clients are asking questions. Something came up. Something? Graham's voice rose slightly. I drove by here 2 days ago and saw a child playing in your garden. A little girl. Her name is Emma. I don't care what her name is. Who is she? Why is she living in your house? Alex sat down behind his desk, a position of power. That's not your concern. The hell it isn't. I'm the CFO of Morrison Properties. Everything you do reflects on this company. And having some random child living with you raises questions. Serious questions. Questions like what, Graham? Like, are you thinking clearly? Like whether you're having some kind of breakdown. Like what happens if something goes wrong and she gets hurt and her family sues us? Alex felt his jaw tighten. Emma's mother is recovering from a life-threatening illness in the hospital. Her baby brother nearly died of dehydration. They were homeless. I'm helping them. That's all. That's all, Graham laughed, but there was no humor in it. Alex, do you hear yourself? You picked up a homeless family and moved them into your house. You don't know these people. You don't know their history. What if the mother is running some kind of scam? What if this is all designed to get money out of you? Emma is 9 years old, and you're a wealthy man with a history of grief. You're vulnerable. People like that, they can smell vulnerability. Alex stood slowly. Get out. Alex, I'm trying to help you. No, you're trying to protect the company. There's a difference. Now get out of my house. Graham's face flushed. You're making a mistake. Then I'll make it, alone. Leave. Graham stared at him for another moment, then turned and walked out. Alex heard the front door slam. He stood at his study window, watching Graham's BMW disappear down the driveway. His hands were shaking with suppressed anger. He's wrong, you know. Alex turned to find Emma in the doorway. She must have been there the whole time, listening. How much did you hear? All of it. She stepped into the study, her book still tucked under one arm. He thinks my mom is trying to trick you. He's wrong. Is he? Emma tilted her head. We are taking your money. Living in your house, you're paying for my mom's hospital bills. From his perspective, we are using you. Emma, but we're not. My mom would never do that. She's too proud. Sometimes I think she'd rather die than accept help from anyone. Emma's voice was matter-of-fact, analytical. So he's wrong about her. But he's right that you're vulnerable. You are sad. Anyone can see it. You're sad and lonely, and you live in this big empty house like a ghost. The assessment, delivered with the blunt honesty only children could manage, landed like a punch. Is that what you think? Alex asked quietly. That I'm a ghost? Emma shook her head. You were a ghost, but I think maybe you're starting to come back. She left him standing there, processing words that cut too close to truth. That night, Alex could not sleep. He walked the halls of his house in the dark, something he had done countless times before. But tonight felt different. Tonight there was another person sleeping under his roof. A child who had somehow seen straight through his carefully maintained facades to the broken man underneath. His feet carried him without conscious thought to the east wing. to the door he had not opened in 3.5 years. Lily's room. He stood outside it for a long time, hand on the doorknob but not turning it. Inside, everything would be exactly as she had left it. Her clothes in the closet, her toys on the shelves. The drawings she had been working on that final morning, left unfinished on her desk. Catherine had wanted to pack it all away after the funeral, but Alex had said no. He had locked the door instead and never gone back. You're keeping her in there, like a prisoner. Emma's voice from earlier echoed in his mind. Maybe she was right. Maybe by preserving everything exactly as it was, he had turned Lily's room into a tomb instead of a memorial. His hand tightened on the doorknob. Behind him, a soft voice said, "You don't have to do it tonight." Alex turned. Emma stood in the hallway wearing his old t-shirt as a nightgown. It fell to her ankles. "Can't sleep?" he asked. "I heard you walking around, thought maybe something was wrong." "Nothing's wrong, I was just—" He gestured at the door. Emma walked closer. "Is that her room, your daughter?" Alex nodded. "What was her name?" "Lily." "That's a pretty name." Emma stood beside him, looking at the door as if she could see through it. "How old was she?" "7, when she died." "What was she like?" No one had asked him that in years. At the funeral, people had offered condolences and platitudes. No one had asked him to remember Lily as a person, not a tragedy. "She was—" Alex's voice caught. "She was funny. She told terrible jokes and laughed at all of them. She loved art, used to draw constantly. She wanted to be a marine biologist when she grew up because she loved whales. She was afraid of the dark but too stubborn to admit it, so she'd make up excuses to sleep with the hall light on." Emma smiled slightly. "She sounds nice." She was. They stood in silence for a moment. Then Emma said, "Can I tell you something?" "Of course." "My mom never talks about my dad. He left when she told him she was pregnant with me. I don't even know his name. And for a long time, I was angry about that, about not knowing him, about not having a dad when other kids did." Emma looked up at Alex. "But then I realized having a dad who's not there is worse than not having one at all. At least I never knew what I was missing. But you had them, you loved them, and then they were gone. That must be so much harder." Alex found he could not speak around the tightness in his throat. "I think," Emma continued, "that Lily would want you to be happy. Kids always want their parents to be happy, even when they're gone." "How do you know that?" "Because that's what I want for my mom. I want her to be happy and safe and healthy. And if I was gone, I'd still want that for her. Love doesn't stop just because someone dies." Alex looked down at this 9-year-old girl with her canvas bag of soil and her ancient wisdom and her impossible kindness. "When did you get so smart?" he asked. "I read a lot," she said seriously. Then, "Are you going to open the door?" "Not tonight, but soon. Maybe you could help me. When I do." Emma nodded. "Okay, I'd like that." She turned to go back to bed, but Alex stopped her. "Emma, thank you." "For what?" "For seeing me, the real me, not the ghost." She smiled, a rare full smile that transformed her solemn face. "You're welcome, Mr. Morrison." "Call me Alex. Mr. Morrison makes me feel old." "You are old." He laughed, actually laughed. "Go to bed, Emma." She padded away down the hall, disappearing into the guest room. Alex stood at Lily's door for a few more minutes. Then he walked away. Soon, but not tonight. 3 weeks after Claire was discharged from the hospital, the household had developed a rhythm. Claire did housework in the mornings, though Alex suspected she did far less than she claimed. He had caught her several times simply standing in rooms, staring out windows with a distant expression. The trauma of nearly dying did not fade quickly. Imama had enrolled in the local elementary school. Alex had pulled strings, made donations, gotten her admitted mid-semester. She was thriving academically, already catching up despite months of missed education. Noah was growing at a remarkable rate. He had doubled his birth weight. His eyes tracked movement now. He smiled when Alex picked him up, and that was the thing that Claire seemed to struggle with most. "He prefers you," she said one evening. They were in the living room. Emma was doing homework at the coffee table. Noah was in Alex's arms, content and quiet. Every time Claire had tried to hold him earlier, he had fussed and cried. "He's just used to me," Alex said, though he was not sure that was true. "I'm his mother." "I know. Then why doesn't he want me?" Alex had no answer for that. The truth was complicated and painful. In Noah's first days of life, Claire had been too sick to care for him. Alex had been there instead, feeding him, holding him. To an infant's simple understanding, Alex was safety and comfort. "He'll bond with you," Alex said. "Give it time." But Claire's expression said she did not believe him. Emma looked up from her math homework. "Mom, Noah loves you. He's just confused right now because everything changed. But he'll figure it out." Claire managed a weak smile for her daughter. "When did you get so wise?" "I read a lot," Emma said, echoing what she had told Alex. Later that night, after everyone had gone to bed, Alex stood at his study window and stared out at the garden. The moon was full, casting silver light across the overgrown grounds. In 3 weeks, he had not made any progress on selling the estate, had not even called the realtor back. The truth was, he no longer wanted to sell. This house was alive again. He heard it in Emma's laughter when she discovered something new, in Noah's babbling, even in Claire's careful footsteps as she moved through rooms, claiming space inch by inch. His phone buzzed, a text from Graham. "Board meeting tomorrow at 10. Don't miss this one." Alex sighed and typed back a confirmation. He had been neglecting the company. Graham was right about that, if nothing else. Morrison Properties was worth $200 million. It employed 300 people. It could not run itself. But for the first time in his life, Alex found he did not care as much as he should. The next morning, he left early for the office. Emma was already up, eating cereal at the kitchen island. "Board meeting," and he explained. "I'll be back by dinner." "Okay, will you help me with my science project tonight? We have to build a model of the solar system." Of course. He meant it. For the first time in years, he had something to come home to. The Morrison Properties building was downtown, all glass and steel and corporate ambition. Alex rode the elevator to the top floor, where the executive offices overlooked Puget Sound. His assistant, Patricia, looked relieved to see him. "Mr. Morrison, Mr. Westfield has been asking about you." "I'm sure he has." The boardroom was already full when he arrived. 8 board members sat around the long table. Graham was at the far end, his expression carefully neutral. "Gentlemen," Alex said, taking a seat at the head of the table. "My apologies for my absence lately. I had some personal matters that required attention." "Is everything all right?" asked David Chen, the oldest board member and a friend of Alex's father. "Everything is fine. Better than fine, actually." Graham cleared his throat. "Perhaps we should discuss the Riverside Development Project. We've had some complications." The meeting proceeded normally for an hour. They discussed properties, investments, upcoming acquisitions. Alex found his attention wandering more than once. He was thinking about Noah's smile that morning, about Emma's science project, about whether Claire would actually rest instead of cleaning while he was gone. "Alex?" David's voice pulled him back. "What do you think?" "I'm sorry, what was the question?" Graham's expression tightened. The question was whether we should proceed with the Riverside development despite the homeless encampment currently occupying the land. Alex went very still. "The Riverside encampment. Yes, we've been trying to get the city to clear it for months. But they keep stalling. We're proposing to accelerate our timeline, put pressure on the mayor's office to enforce the existing ordinances." "That encampment is where people live," Alex said slowly. "It's illegal squatting on land the city has agreed to sell us." "Those are human beings, Graham. Families. Children. It's business, Alex. We can't let sentiment interfere with a $20 million project." Alex looked around the table. These men in their expensive suits, making decisions that would destroy the lives of people they would never meet. People like Claire and Emma and Noah. "No," he said. "No. We're not doing the Riverside project." Graham's face flushed. "Lex, we've invested significant resources into this already. The planning, the permits, the city agreements. I don't care. Find another location." "There is no other location with that kind of potential return." "Then we'll take a smaller return, or we won't do it at all." Alex stood. "This meeting is over." "You can't just—" "I can, Graham. I own 51% of this company, and I'm telling you, we're not doing anything that requires destroying a homeless camp." He walked out, leaving shocked silence behind him. Patricia was waiting by his office. "Mr. Morrison, is everything clear? My schedule for the rest of the day." "Sir, I'm going home." He drove back to the estate with his hands tight on the wheel. The conversation with Graham had shaken something loose inside him. How many years had he spent making money, building wealth, acquiring properties, without ever thinking about the human cost? How many people had he displaced without a second thought? The guilt was crushing. He found Emma in the library when he got home. She looked up in surprise. "You're back early." "I needed to leave." He sat down in the chair across from her. "Emma, can I ask you something?" "Sure." "Do you hate rich people? People like me?" Emma considered the question seriously. "I used to. When we were living in the tent and I'd see nice cars drive by, I'd hate those people. I'd think they didn't care about us, that we were invisible to them. And now? Now I think most people aren't mean. They're just separate. Like they live in a different world and they can't see into ours. But that doesn't make them bad, just ignorant. What if I told you I almost did something that would have hurt people like you?" Emma set down her book. "What did you do?" "My company was planning to develop the land where the Riverside encampment is. We were going to have it cleared. All those people would have been fished out." "Were you going to help them find somewhere else to go?" "No, that wasn't part of the plan." "But you didn't do it, did you?" "I stopped it today." Emma nodded slowly. "Then you're learning. That's what matters. I'm supposed to be the adult here. You shouldn't have to teach me how to be a decent person." "Maybe not, but sometimes the best teachers are the ones who've lived through what they're teaching about." She smiled slightly. "Besides, you taught me something too." "What?" "That not everyone looks away. That sometimes people help even when they don't have to. Even when it's hard." Alex felt his throat tighten. "You're a remarkable kid, Emma." "I know," she said with mock seriousness. Then, "Want to start on my solar system project?" "Absolutely." They spent the afternoon building planets out of styrofoam balls and paint. Noah watched from his bouncer, babbling commentary. Claire made dinner, refusing Alex's offer to order takeout. It was the most normal evening Alex had spent in 3.5 years. That night, as he was checking on Emma before bed, she asked, "When are we going to open Lily's room?" "I don't know, soon." "I think you're ready now." "What makes you say that?" "Because you are not a ghost anymore. You're alive again, and Lily would want you to live." The next day was Saturday. Alex woke early and stood outside Lily's door for a long time before Emma found him. "Is today the day?" she asked. "I think it has to be." She took his hand, her small fingers wrapped around his larger ones, warm and solid and real. Together, they turned the handle. The door swung open. The room was exactly as Lily had left it. Her bed was unmade from the last time she had slept in it. Her school uniform was draped over her desk and chair. Her backpack sat by the door, still packed with books. On her desk, a birthday card lay half finished. "Dear Daddy, thank you for—" That was where it ended. She had never gotten to finish it. Alex's knees buckled. He sat down hard on the floor, his back against the wall. Emma sat beside him, still holding his hand. "I wasn't there," he said, voice breaking. "That morning, Catherine asked me to stay home. Said Lily wanted to give me something. But I had a meeting. I said I'd see it later." He looked at the unfinished card. There was no later. "It's not your fault. I should have been there." "Maybe, but you weren't, and you can't change that. All you can do is decide what to do now." Alex turned to look at her. "What should I do?" "Remember her. Love her. But let her go too. Let this room be a room again, not a shrine." They sat in silence for a long time. Finally, Alex stood. He walked to Lily's bookshelf and pulled down a stuffed whale, her favorite. "She would have liked you," he said. "I wish I could have met her." "Me too." They spent the next hour going through Lily's things. The clothes could be donated, the toys too. But they kept a few special items. The whale, her art supplies, a photo album. Emma found Lily's diary in her nightstand. "Should we read it?" Alex hesitated. It felt invasive somehow, but Emma was already opening to the last entry. March 15th, she read aloud. Today at school, we learned about recycling. Mrs. Patterson said we have to take care of the earth because it's the only one we have. I told Daddy about it at dinner, and he said he's proud of me. I love when Daddy's proud of me. Sometimes he works so much and he looks so tired. I wish he would smile more. When I grow up, I'm going to make sure he's happy all the time. The words hit Alex like a physical blow. His daughter had worried about him, had wanted him to be happy, and he had spent the last 3.5 years being anything but. She would want you to be happy now, Emma said softly. I know. So be happy, for her, and for yourself. That afternoon, they loaded boxes into Alex's car, bags of clothes and toys, all going to donation centers. Emma helped, working with quiet efficiency. Claire watched from the doorway, Noah in her arms. Are you sure about this? She asked Alex. I'm sure. It's a big step. It's the right step. They drove to 3 different donation centers, distributing Lily's things to places that would give them to children who needed them. At the last stop, a children's hospital, a nurse accepted the final box with grateful tears. These will mean so much to our patients, she said. Driving home, Emma said, you did a good thing. We did a good thing. I couldn't have done it without you. That's what family does. They help each other. The word hung in the air between them. Family. Was that what they were becoming? The following week passed in a blur of normalcy. Emma did well on a math test and brought it home with pride. Noah started babbling sounds that almost resembled words. Claire cooked meals and slowly, carefully, began to trust that this situation was real and stable. Alex worked from home most days, managing Morrison properties remotely. He and Graham had not spoken since the board meeting. The tension was building towards something, but Alex pushed it aside. For now, he had this strange, cobbled-together family, this unexpected second chance at life. On Thursday afternoon, Claire asked if she could take Emma shopping. Noah had a pediatrician appointment, so Alex would watch him. Of course, he said, take my card. Claire shook her head. I have some money saved. Emma needs new clothes. She's been wearing the same 3 outfits for weeks. Claire, please, let me help. You've helped enough. This is something I need to do myself. He understood. Pride was important, especially when you had so little else. They left at 3 in the afternoon, Claire driving a car Alex had insisted she use. It was an older Honda, reliable but nothing fancy. Claire had accepted it only after he explained it was just sitting in his garage unused. Alex spent the afternoon with Noah. He read to the baby, even though Noah could not possibly understand the words. He changed diapers and made bottles and marveled at how much he had forgotten about caring for an infant. Catherine would have laughed at his clumsy attempts. But Catherine was gone, and somehow, impossibly, he was learning to be okay with that. At 5:30, his phone rang. Unknown number. Mr. Morrison? A woman's voice, official and tense. Yes? This is Seattle Medical Center. There's been an accident. The world stopped. Everything stopped. What kind of accident? His voice sounded calm. How was his voice calm when his heart had just stopped beating? A motor vehicle collision. Claire Carter and Emma Carter were brought to our emergency department. You're listed as the emergency contact. How bad? You should come to the hospital, sir, as soon as you can. The line went dead. Alex stood frozen, Noah in his arms. The baby looked up at him with trusting eyes, unaware that their world had just shattered. 3.5 years ago, he had gotten a phone call like this. He had driven to the hospital with desperate hope, only to arrive too late. History could not be repeating itself. It could not. He grabbed his keys with shaking hands, secured Noah in the car seat, and drove faster than he had ever driven in his life. The hospital appeared ahead, its emergency bay lit against the darkening sky. Not again. Please, God, not again. He parked badly, grabbed Noah, and ran inside. The emergency room was chaos made visible. Fluorescent lights blazed overhead, too bright and too harsh. The smell of antiseptic and blood filled the air. Monitors beeped in discordant rhythm. Nurses moved with practiced urgency between curtain bays. Somewhere, someone was screaming. Alex stood at the reception desk. Noah clutched against his chest and forced words through the tightness in his throat. Claire Carter and Emma Carter. They were just brought in. Car accident. The receptionist, a middle-aged woman with kind eyes, typed quickly, "Are you family?" Yes. The lie came easier now. I'm her husband. She nodded and picked up a phone. Let me page the doctor. Alex moved to the waiting area, but he could not sit. He paced instead, Noah warm and solid against him. The baby sensed his tension, fussing quietly. It's okay, Alex murmured, though he did not know if he was reassuring Noah or himself. It's going to be okay. But he had said those same words 3.5 years ago, and they had been a lie. 5 minutes passed. 10. 15. Each second stretched into infinity. Finally, Dr. Martinez appeared. She looked tired, her scrubs rumpled, but her expression was professionally composed. Mr. Morrison. He crossed to her in 3 quick strides. How are they? Claire has a concussion and some bruising. Airbag saved her life. She's going to be fine. Dr. Martinez paused. But Emma, the world tilted. Emma was in the back seat. The impact came from behind. She wasn't properly positioned in the seatbelt and hit her head against the window frame. Her Martinez's voice remained steady, clinical. She has a severe skull fracture and intracranial bleeding. We've taken her to surgery. Alex could not breathe, could not think, could not process anything beyond those terrible words. Skull fracture, intracranial bleeding, surgery. Is she going to survive? The question came out as a whisper. We're doing everything we can. Dr. Reeves is one of the best neurosurgeons in the state. But I won't lie to you, Mr. Morrison. It's serious. Very serious. Can I see her? She's in surgery now. It will be several hours. I can take you to Claire if you'd like. Alex nodded numbly. Dr. Martinez led him through a maze of corridors to a room in the emergency department. Claire sat on a gurney, her head in her hands. When she heard them enter, she looked up. Her face was a mask of anguish. Alex, her voice broke. Oh God, Alex, Emma, they said, I know. Claire stood, swayed, sat back down hard. It's my fault. The brakes were soft. I should have noticed. I should have. Claire, stop. Alex moved to her side. This is not your fault. She's 9 years old. She was in my care, and now she's. Claire could not finish the sentence. She buried her face in her hands and sobbed. Alex had no comfort to offer, no words that would make this better. He simply stood there holding Noah and let Claire cry. Eventually, a nurse came to move Claire to an observation room. They wanted to keep her overnight because of the concussion. Alex followed, unable to think of anywhere else to go. The hours crawled past. A social worker appeared at some point, asking questions. Alex answered them mechanically. Yes, he was family. Yes, he could care for the baby. Yes, he had insurance. Noah needed to eat. A nurse brought formula. Alex fed him while staring at nothing. At 11 p.m., Dr. Martinez returned with another doctor, an older man with silver hair and steady hands. Mr. Morrison, I'm Dr. Reeves. Alex stood. How is she? The surgery went as well as we could have hoped. We relieved the pressure on her brain and stopped the bleeding. But the next 48 hours are critical. Will she wake up? Dr. Reeves met his eyes. I don't know. The brain is unpredictable. She could wake up in a few hours, completely fine. Or she could remain unconscious for days, weeks. And if she does wake up, he paused. There could be deficits, memory loss, motor impairment, personality changes. We won't know until she wakes up. If she wakes up, Alex said hollowly. I prefer when, Mr. Morrison. Optimism matters in cases like this. Can I see her? She's being moved to the pediatric ICU. Once she's settled, yes. They let him in 30 minutes later. The PICU was quieter than the emergency department. Dimmer. The lights were turned low for the children who needed to sleep. Machines hummed and beeped softly. Nurses moved with whispered efficiency. Emma was in a room at the far end. Alex stood in the doorway for a long moment before he could force himself to step inside. She looked impossibly small in the hospital bed. Her head was wrapped in bandages. An IV line ran into her arm. Monitors tracked her heart rate, her oxygen levels, her brain activity. A breathing tube had been removed, Dr. Reeves had said, because she was breathing on her own. That was a good sign. But she was so still, so quiet. This child who had been so full of life and wisdom and unexpected joy. Alex pulled a chair close to the bed and sat down. Noah had fallen asleep finally, exhausted by the stress. Alex held him carefully, afraid to move too much. "Emma," he said quietly, "I don't know if you can hear me. The doctors say maybe you can, so I'm going to talk to you." He paused, gathering his thoughts. "I want to tell you about Lily, my daughter. I think you'd like her story." His voice steadied as he spoke. Lily was afraid of the dark, but she was too stubborn to admit it. She'd make up excuses, say she needed the hall light on to find the bathroom, or that her stuffed whale, Mr. Bubbles, couldn't sleep without a nightlight. We all knew the truth, but we never called her on it, because some fears are okay to have. A nurse passed by the door, glanced in, moved on. Lily wanted to be a marine biologist. She was obsessed with whales, humpback whales especially. She said they sang to each other across thousands of miles of ocean, that they had families who stayed together their whole lives. She thought that was beautiful. Alex shifted Noah to his other arm. The night before she died, Lily showed me a drawing she'd made. It was a whale family swimming together. A mother, a father, and a baby. She said it was us, that we were like the whales, always together, always singing to each other. His voice broke. He stopped, breathed, continued. I told her it was nice. I was distracted, checking email on my phone. I didn't really look at it. I didn't see what she was trying to tell me. That she loved us, that she felt safe with us, that family mattered to her. Silence. The next day she died, and I never got to tell her how much that drawing meant, how much she meant. Alex wiped his eyes. But then I met you, Emma, a 9-year-old girl with a bag of dirt preparing for the worst. And you taught me something Lily tried to teach me. That love doesn't stop just because we're afraid. That family isn't always the one you're born into. That sometimes the same soil that buries the dead can grow new life. He reached out and took Emma's hand carefully, avoiding the IV line. Her fingers were cool and limp. So you need to wake up, because I need to tell you something important. He leaned closer. I love you, Emma, not because you remind me of Lily, not because I'm trying to replace her, but because you're you. Brave and smart and kind and impossibly wise. You brought me back to life, and I can't lose you now. I won't survive it. The monitors beeped their steady rhythm. Emma did not move. Alex stayed beside her bed all night. Nurses came and went, checking vitals, adjusting medications. Claire appeared at dawn, moving slowly, one hand pressed to her head. She stood on the other side of Emma's bed and wept silently. The morning of the second morning, Graham Westfield found him in the PICU waiting room. Alex was feeding Noah, exhausted and unshaven, his suit wrinkled from sleeping in a chair. Alex, Graham's voice held something almost like concern. Patricia told me what happened, and I'm sorry. Thank you. Graham sat down in the chair beside him. For a moment, neither spoke. How is she? Graham asked finally. Unchanged, still unconscious. And you're staying here? Where else would I be? Graham was quiet, then he said, Alex, I need to talk to you about something, about the company. Not now, Graham. It's important. I don't care. The board is concerned. You haven't been to the office in weeks. You missed the quarterly review. Clients are getting nervous. Alex turned to look at him. My daughter is in a coma. Nothing else matters. She's not your daughter, Alex, not legally. The words hung in the air like poison. Get out, Alex said quietly. I'm trying to help you. You're not thinking clearly. This attachment, it's not healthy. You're grieving Lily and you've latched onto this child as a replacement. Get out. The board is meeting tomorrow. They're going to discuss your fitness to continue as CEO. Alex stood. Noah fussed at the sudden movement. Then let them. I resign. Graham's eyes widened. What? You heard me? I resign as CEO, effective immediately. I'll retain my shares, but I'm done running the company. You want it so badly? It's yours. Now get the hell out of my sight before I do something we'll both regret. Graham stared at him. You can't be serious. I've never been more serious about anything in my life. Morrison Properties means nothing compared to that child in there. And if you can't understand that, then you're a smaller man than I thought. Graham stood slowly. You'll regret this. The only thing I regret is not doing it sooner. Graham walked away without another word. Alex sat back down, hands shaking with suppressed rage. Noah looked up at him with worried eyes. It's okay, Alex murmured. Everything's okay now. But it was not okay. Emma did not wake up that day or the next. The hours blurred together. Alex kept vigil by her bedside, leaving only when absolutely necessary. He read to her, talked to her, told her stories about Lily and Catherine, about the garden, about the future they would have together when she woke up. When, not if. Dr. Reeves checked on her twice a day. The swelling in her brain was going down. That was good. Her vitals were stable. Also good. But she remained unconscious. Sometimes, Dr. Reeves said on the fourth day, the brain just needs time. She's healing, trusts the process. But trust was hard when every moment felt like borrowed time. On the fifth night, Alex fell asleep in the chair beside Emma's bed. Noah was asleep in a bassinet the nurses had brought. Claire had gone home to shower and rest, finally accepting that she could not help Emma by running herself into the ground. Alex dreamed of gardens, of soil dark and rich, of things growing from impossible places. He woke to pressure on his hand. At first, he thought he had imagined it, but then it came again. A slight squeeze, fingers tightening around his. Alex's eyes flew open. Emma was looking at him. Her eyes were open, focused, aware. "Dad?" Her voice was barely a whisper, rough from disuse. Alex could not speak, could not breathe, could not do anything but stare at this impossible gift. "You stayed," Emma said. Words finally came. "Of course I stayed. I'll always stay." "Promise?" "I promise, Emma." Emma's lips curved into a small smile. Then her eyes closed again, sliding back into sleep. But this was different. Natural. Healing. Alex pressed the call button. Nurses flooded in. Dr. Reeves was paged. Within minutes, the room was full of controlled chaos. They checked her pupils, tested her reflexes, asked questions she was too tired to answer. "This is excellent," Dr. Reeves said, his normally stoic expression breaking into a genuine smile. "This is very, very good." Alex called Claire. She answered on the first ring, voice thick with sleep. "She woke up," he said. "Claire, she woke up. She's going to be okay." Claire's sob of relief was audible even through the phone. Emma woke again 2 hours later, more alert this time. She was confused at first, disoriented. But when she saw Alex, she relaxed. "Where's Mom?" she asked. "On her way. She'll be here soon." "And Noah?" Alex gestured to the bassinet. "Right here. He's been worried about you." Emma smiled weakly. "I scared everyone, didn't I? Terrified us. Sorry. Don't apologize. Just rest. Heal." She closed her eyes again, but her hands stayed wrapped around his. The next few weeks were a slow climb back to normalcy. Emma remained in the hospital for 10 days. The headaches were severe at first, but they gradually lessened. Her memory was intact, her motor skills unaffected. Dr. Reeves called it miraculous. Alex called it a second chance. Claire spent every day at the hospital. The tension between her and Alex had eased. They were united in their relief, their gratitude that Emma had survived. On the day Emma was discharged, they brought her back to the Morrison estate. She walked slowly, still weak, but she walked on her own. Emma stopped in the foyer and looked around as if seeing it for the first time. "I dreamed about this place," she said. "When I was asleep, I dreamed I lived here, that this was home." "It is home," Alex said, "for as long as you want it to be." Claire made dinner that night, a simple meal of pasta and salad. They ate together at the dining room table, all four of them. Emma told stories about the nurses who had taken care of her. Noah babbled nonsense from his high chair. Claire laughed, genuinely laughed, for the first time since the accident. After dinner, Emma asked if she could see the garden. They walked out together into the October evening. The air was cool and smelled of rain. The garden was still wild, still overgrown, but somehow it looked different now, not dead, just waiting. "Will you restore it?" Emma asked. "I think so, yes." "Can I help?" "I'd like that." They stood in silence, watching the sun set behind the trees. "Alex?" Emma's voice was quiet. "Can I ask you something? Anything. When I was asleep, I could hear you sometimes, talking to me. You said," she paused, "you said you loved me." "I did, and I do. Even though I'm not Lily?" "You're not Lily, you're Emma. And I love you for exactly who you are. She slipped her hand into his. I love you too. Is it okay if I call you Dad? Alex's throat tightened. Yes, I'd like that very much. Okay, Dad. The words settled between them, comfortable and right. 3 months later, they stood in the family court. The courtroom was smaller than Alex had expected. Wood-paneled walls, a judge's bench at the front, a few rows of seats for observers. Claire sat beside him, wearing a dress she had bought for the occasion. Emma sat on his other side, fidgeting with the hem of her own new dress. Noah was with a court-appointed supervisor in a waiting room nearby. Judge Patricia Chen presided. She was in her 60s, with sharp eyes and a no-nonsense demeanor. Mr. Morrison, she began, you filed a petition to adopt Emma Carter and Noah Carter. Is that correct? Yes, Your Honor. And Ms. Carter, you support this petition? Claire stood. I do, Your Honor. The judge looked at the papers before her. This is an unusual situation. You're not married. You're not in a romantic relationship. Can you explain to me why you believe this adoption is in the best interests of these children? Alex stood. Your Honor, 4 months ago I found Emma in my garden. She was 9 years old and preparing to bury her family. In that moment I could have walked away, called the authorities, let someone else handle it, but I didn't. Because when I looked at her, I saw, his voice caught. I saw a child who needed someone, and I was someone who needed purpose. We saved each other. The judge listened without expression. My wife and daughter died 3.5 years ago, Alex continued. For most of that time, I was barely alive, just going through the motions. But Emma and Claire and Noah, they brought me back. They gave me a reason to wake up in the morning, to care about something beyond my own grief. He glanced at Emma, who was watching him with bright eyes. I'm not trying to replace the family I lost. I'm trying to build a new one. And I know that's messy and complicated, not how things usually work. But it's real. We're a family, not by blood, but by choice. The judge turned to Emma. Emma, do you want Mr. Morrison to adopt you? Emma stood. She looked impossibly young in her dress, but when she spoke, her voice was steady. Yes, Your Honor, I want him to be my dad, because he showed up when no one else did. He could have been like all the other people who looked at us and looked away. But he saw us, he helped us, and he's been there every single day since. That's what a real dad does. Judge Chen nodded slowly. And you understand that if this adoption goes through, Mr. Morrison will have the same legal rights and responsibilities as a biological parent? Yes, Your Honor, that's what I want. The judge looked at her papers again, read through reports from social workers, character references, home study evaluations. Finally, she looked up. I've reviewed all the materials presented. I've considered the testimony, and I find that this adoption is in the best interests of both children. She picked up her gavel. Petition granted. Emma Carter and Noah Carter are hereby adopted by Alexander Morrison. Their legal names shall be Emma Carter Morrison and Noah Carter Morrison. The gavel came down with a decisive crack. Emma launched herself at Alex, Alex, wrapping her arms around him. He caught her, lifting her off her feet, both of them crying and laughing at the same time. Claire stood back, wiping her own tears. Alex reached out a hand to her, pulling her into the embrace. They stood there together, this strange cobbled family, holding on to each other in a courthouse on a Tuesday afternoon. It was not the family any of them had imagined, but it was theirs. 6 months later, spring came to Seattle. The Morrison estate garden had been transformed. Professional landscapers had cleared the overgrowth, repaired the fountain, replanted the flower beds. But one section remained untouched. The area where Alex had first found Emma digging. That part, they would restore themselves. On a Saturday in April, they gathered there. Alex, Emma, Claire, and Noah, who was now walking and investigating everything with sticky hands and fearless curiosity. They had brought a cherry tree in a large pot, its branches already showing the first hint of pink blossoms. This is for Lily and Catherine, Alex said. So they're part of our garden too. Emma nodded. She was taller now, healthier. The scar on her head had faded to a thin white line, usually hidden by her hair. She carried something Alex had not seen in months. The canvas bag. I kept it, she said quietly. I wasn't ready to let it go, but I think I am now. Together, they dug the hole. Emma worked with steady determination, her shovel biting into the earth. Noah tried to help, mostly just playing in the dirt. Claire guided the tree into place while Alex held it steady. When the hole was ready, Emma opened her bag and poured the soil around the tree's roots. The earth she had once collected to bury her family now fed new life instead. She stepped back, brushing dirt from her hands. There, she said, now it's really home. That evening, they sat beneath the cherry tree as the sun set. Noah fell asleep in Claire's lap. Emma leaned against Alex's shoulder, reading a book about whales. The garden was quiet, peaceful, alive. Alex looked at the three people who had become his family. Not by blood, not by plan, but by choice and circumstance, and a 9-year-old girl who had refused to give up hope even when preparing for the worst. Dad? Emma said without looking up. Yeah? I'm glad I came to your garden that day. Alex wrapped his arm around her shoulders. So am I. She returned to her book. The fountain bubbled softly. Spring flowers released their perfume into the cooling air. And Alexander Morrison, who had been preparing to sell this place and bury his past, understood at last what his daughter Lily had tried to teach him with her drawing of the whale family. Love does not end. It transforms, it grows, it finds new expression in unexpected places. The soil meant for graves had become a garden. And the man who thought he would never smile again was smiling now, surrounded by the laughter and life and messy, beautiful reality of family. Not the family he had imagined, but the one he had found. And that made all the difference.